Now, you've probably had a polling card through the door reminding you that the local elections are fast approaching. And this year, you'll get the chance to vote for a police and crime commissioner.
PCCs were brought in about a decade ago to help hold the force to account, set the force budget and identify local crime priorities. In a moment, we'll hear from the prospective candidates for the role.
But first, our reporter Amelia Beckett has been spending some time in Lincolnshire, which has the lowest funded police force in the whole of the UK. She's been hearing from people across the county on what matters to them.
Lincolnshire's coastline, stretching for 50 miles, is one of the least crowded in the country. But during the summer, tourists flock to its amusements and arcades, and the population here soars.
There's 39,000 caravans in East Lindsey, and I think the population must at least quadruple.
Jen owns one of the more than 200 caravan parks in the county. It's a peaceful sight, but she says in summer, more people means more crime.
On caravan parks, you get caravan thefts. We've also noticed across the coast an increase in domestic violence on caravan parks. And then more seriously, I think people are using the caravans as a way of hiding county lines. So they're using vulnerable people or children, installing them in caravan parks because it's quite anonymous. And then they've got access to a wider population to distribute drugs.
Jen's part of a caravan watch group working alongside local PCSOs to help tackle these issues. But last year, Lincolnshire's police force cut PCSO numbers by half, a move she wants reversing.
Would you say they've been effective?
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's really helped out with certainly crime prevention and crime and dealing with crimes as and when they happen as well.
It's something she wants on the new Police and Crime Commissioner's agenda. But what exactly is a PCC responsible for?
Well, they're responsible for appointing the Chief Constable, for securing an efficient and effective police force in their area, and setting the force budget, including how much people pay for policing through their council tax. But Lincolnshire is the lowest funded police force in the UK, with the fewest number of officers per 100,000 people.
And it is a vast county they have to cover, England's second largest. So as you head from the coastline to the city, priorities shift. At the self-defence class in Lincoln, many come to arm themselves with skills to feel safer on the streets. But when it comes to policing, they want to see more boots on the ground.
I think there needs to be sometimes more of a presence. Like if you're walking through town, you don't generally see very many officers. Even just one like walking around would be almost a deterrent to bad people walking about. But I don't think you see them enough.
I mean, I don't really see police around that much in Lincoln, like in the high street or around the villages or anything that much, apart from the odd police car goes by. So I just think they push to the limits, aren't they? Really, in policing things. I mean, back in the day, they used to have policemen on the beat, but there's not so much of it now.
And do you think that makes people feel safer?
Yeah, I think it does.
But more than half of people in Lincolnshire live rurally. So unsurprisingly, with its huge expanse of farmland, rural theft costs this county more than any other. This was just one of the many attempted break-ins at Hannah's flower farm near Spilsby. But she says it wasn't until she installed her own CCTV she felt police took it seriously.
So as soon as we found out we'd been broken into, we rang up straight away. But nobody came out, no police came out. They said there was no evidence. Then when we were attempted in February 2023, we had the footage. And I didn't bother call at the time because I thought they never come out last time and we were actually broken into. But I reported it online and a gentleman rang me back from head office and I sent over the footage, and then within 20 minutes the police were actually out here.
So do you think the police take rural crime seriously enough?
I think they do, but I think the funds are not there.
Growing that budget is something the new commissioner won't be able to do overnight. But it is a clear priority for people here, from the countryside to the coast to the city.
Well, a very well-travelled Amelia joins us in the studio. Now, very interesting to see all those different parts of Lincolnshire and what they think about it. But there seems to be a common thing, isn't it, that they're all saying it's all about funding. So what's the government had to say about that?
Well, interestingly, since 2015, the government has been saying that the way police forces are funded is out of date, and they have launched consultations on this, but reforms were paused. In the last year, though, they did tell us that they have delivered on their promise of 20,000 new police officers and increased funding for all forces. In Lincolnshire particular, that equates to an £8.9 million increase for this financial year.
And can PCC lobby for more funding?
Yeah, PCCs can lobby for more funding, and interestingly, fairer funding is something that the Chief Constable in Lincolnshire has mentioned. Now, it's important to say that PCC elections aren't just taking place in Lincolnshire. They're also happening on Humberside, in Derbyshire and in Nottinghamshire. But in Lincolnshire, I think it's very clear that funding will be top of the agenda. So I sat down with all of the prospective candidates at the Old Nick Museum in Gainsborough to question them about their priorities.
Hello, I'm Mark Jones, the Conservative candidate.
Hello, I'm Mike Horder. I'm the candidate for the Labour Party.
Hello, I'm Leslie Rollings. I'm the Liberal Democrat candidate.
Hello, I'm Peter Escreet, candidate for Law Reform UK.
Hello, I'm David Dickerson, the English Democrats candidate for Lincolnshire Police and Crime Commissioner election.
Firstly then, can you tell me what's your pitch to the people of Lincolnshire? What would you do in this role?
Well, maximising police officer numbers remains number one priority. Secondly, making sure that the police are visible to our communities is something we need to do better. And thirdly, I would say there's some new central bureaucracy that's been given to us by national government, and I've already got a costed plan for how we can move our officers away from sitting at desks.
You've been in post for 8 years now. You're the only candidate who's done this job before, but Lincolnshire's still the lowest funded and smallest force per head of the population. Why is that?
Well, I took this role on when the force was all but bankrupt. They had a budget of £112 million. I've increased that by £66 million. Of course, we need visible policing, but we need effective visible policing, and that's what we're really working on.
Well, the number one priority is to get more funding for Lincolnshire Police. We all know that Lincolnshire Police is the lowest funded in the country. So this is the reason that people don't see police officers. What I will do is go to the national government and I will demand fair funding for Lincolnshire Police, because that's what they need.
And if the government says no, what then?
Well, as I say, failure isn't an option. We need a strong PCC who will go and make that case, and it's time for someone else to try and to achieve it.
The big thing that people want to see are more police officers, more visible policing, more policing on the streets. I think it's essential that whoever takes on this role is engaging with government to get this review on the spending sorted out. The review's been going on for 8 to 10 years. That's not acceptable.
You mentioned it's taken 8 to 10 years for this funding review to go through. What is the point of a PCC?
Well, that is a difficult one. I mean, generally speaking, Liberal Democrats are not in favour of these extra tiers. We would rather see that funding going to frontline policing.
So the priorities that I've got down in my list is to have more boots on the streets, to get rid of the police officers behind the desks, and then get rid of woke policing and the agenda around that, and cutting council tax.
If you cut council tax, how will you find the funding for this force?
There's always a way to find funding. Just because you're spending money doesn't mean you're spending it effectively. We need to be spending money where it's needed, and that's visible policing.
My first priority is to establish what the problems are, and is to actually speak to the community, because interaction with the community and businesses is key. I've got a background in policing, which is well over 25 years, and when I looked at the role of the Police and Crime Commissioner, I realised that there's actually a big opportunity there to look at performance and to hold the Chief Constable to account.
Well, you've heard from them all there, and here's the full list of candidates who are standing to become Lincolnshire's Police and Crime Commissioner. Confirmation that 5 people are in the running. Polling day is Thursday, the 2nd of May, and polling stations are open between 7 in the morning and 10 o'clock at night.